Hi there, and welcome to the Consultants Growth Playbook, where every week we interview consultants that are actively in the trenches, building and leading business development for successful consulting practices. I'm really pleased to have Robert Streeter with me. So Robert currently heads up TheX AI, but has an extensive period of expertise in consulting and tech, and is a true entrepreneurial consulting. So Robert, welcome onto the podcast.
Thank you, Peter. Nice to be here.
Oh, brilliant, Rob. And Rob, when I start, one of the first questions I ask is, okay, so in your experience of business development in consulting, was there one particular way that was your default method for running business development and acquiring clients?
Yeah, I think naturally what I've always done within consultancy is really, I think, leverage a piece of experience I had way back in my career about product management, product manager. And that really focused me on how you can productize things so you can deliver them efficiently, you can deliver them repeatedly, and then also how you market them. So my business development really as a consultant always revolved around how can I take this piece of knowledge, put it in a box, put a description around it in a way that you can market it very easily. So marketing was a natural thing for me to leverage. I mean, I know it's not always something that a lot of consultants have the ability. They feel they don't have the abilities to. But my natural approach was, this is the thing that will solve this specific problem. It's easy to consume. Come and talk to me about it. And that's how I went about it. There was obviously a course of a lot of networking that I did as well. Naturally, you've got to have to build relationships. But it was very much, how can I market this thing and deliver it really efficiently?
Okay, fascinating. So unusually so you had a product-led background.
That's right.
Which brought you into, because I know your experience a little bit and that will naturally unfold during our conversation, brought you into sort of tech and consulting.
Yeah.
But I guess your lane, if you like, of business development was by productizing your consulting service, which is quite a big topic area, certainly over the last 5 years.
Absolutely, yeah.
So when you say productizing it, just for removing any doubt, what exactly do you mean by that? When you say that, what do you mean by that?
So traditionally within consultancy, it relies on, I'm an expert with lots of knowledge. I'm going to come in, I'm going to talk to you, I'm going to understand your problem, and I'm in a bespoke way, come up with, this is what I think is the solution. Now I've narrowed it down, and now I'm going to go and deliver it. And as it were, I'm going to sell my time to do this thing. So that's not very repeatable and very scalable. So productization to me really focuses on, how do you really understand the pain that your customer has? How can you build something that is repeatable and deliverable for them? So that really revolves, I think, in consultancy around, how can you establish a framework? How can you establish a process? And how can you then package that up in a way that is really attractive to the customer? If you get it right, obviously, when you start marketing it, it appeals to them instantly. They can come along. You're very focused in your conversations with the individual, the customer. You can get very quickly to the point where, this is what I can do for you. This is how I'm going to do it. And this is how much it's going to cost. And it cuts down a lot of time in that pre-sales activity, which can just go on and on sometimes with customers. We're meeting after meeting, and that's nice. It's good to talk to people. But sometimes you really got to focus on, this is what I do, and this is how I solve for you. And this is my repeatable framework I've got.
Fab. So when you're productizing, is it still pure professional services? So there is no tangible box that you're delivering. There's no access to a software platform. And that's a little bit what you do now, but we're talking a little bit about your background. So there's no tangible software or anything. So we are still talking about productizing what is largely an intangible service.
Yeah, I think that's the history of productization in consultancy. It's something that AI is driving now, because maybe we'll talk about that later. But historically, it's always been the case that, what you need to do as a consultant is that you need to have a repeatable service. You want to try and minimize the amount of time-consuming work you do, and you don't want to be inventing it anew for every customer. So simple things that that I've worked on pre-AI would be, how do you have a standardized framework, which you understand that this is my subject. I typically have had a lot of experience in maturity models, for instance, and they're a really good vehicle for defining a piece of knowledge. So you have nice stages. This is how I'm going to take you through it. These are the things I'm going to measure. And it creates a nice little roadmap and a step-by-step analysis tool. Pre-AI, I was developing these types of frameworks, doing some basic questionnaire building around them, but then also delivering them with Excel, some number crunching in Excel, which helped me quite a lot get the punchline for them, but it was still quite time consuming. It's faster than just making it long, but it was time consuming.
Brilliant. And I love that. And again, not everyone knows what a maturity model is. I do, and sometimes it's a little bit more of the larger corporate organizational consulting. So your productization was intrinsically tied into something like a maturity model. Have I read that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. When I was head of consultancy for the Chartered Institute for IT, that was the first time I was really introduced to maturity models. We developed a lot of industry standard ones there around IT skills and capability development, etc. Also around learning and development generally. So that introduction to those maturity models really distilled within me that if you can take a piece of knowledge and you can structure it in a logical format, it becomes very repeatable and very understandable and very focused, and you can measure against it as well. And I think that's one of the key things, I think, for customers, and that if you're going to productize what you do, is that what are you going to deliver to them? Okay, I'm going to deliver you some strategic advice. It's going to sound really good, and then I'm going to help you to do this, etc. But if you can make it data led, so people can see on a model measurably where they are, where they need to go to, and you can measure their improvement and their progress, I think that comes to life through a client. Because I think, today, what do people need that customers want? They want something fast. They want to get to that punchline really quickly. They don't want to get embedded in lots of analytical information.
Yeah. Do you know what? That's one of the things that I have with clients. Certainly, I would say it's not right to say more naive clients, but I guess clients that are coming maybe out of larger organizations where they haven't been business developing and starting their own consultancy is, they typically are charging day rate or hourly rate or even project rate. And even if it's a project and they can do it in half the time, they'll look at reducing their fees and things because it's doing it in half the time. And it's like that mindset is actually, if you can reduce the time to get it done, you should be doubling your fees because you're getting the impact quicker, the client, with less of their time spent invested in managing it and everything else, and you're getting the result. Is king.
Yeah, I fully agree, Peter. At the end of the day, what is people buying from you? Are they buying your hours or are they buying your value? And if you think as a consultant, what you're providing is value, then you should charge accordingly. And like you say, if you can help a client get to an understanding of what their problems are and what the solutions are really quickly, that's a valuable thing. You're not going to spend months and months doing it and then give them a lovely long report like we used to do in the olden days. It's got to be a bit more focused than that.
Fantastic. And what I love about that is there's a lot of hype around productized consulting because it's the thing that everyone wants, is there's repeatability, but not many people are showing how to really build frameworks and things around it. I do a little. Your expertise is in building frameworks around a maturity model, which is typically maybe a 4x4 grid or a 5x5 or something of that nature, which there's 3 to 5 core components. And then there's stages, and you might be, as an organization, at different stages across those different components. And it's having the ability to understand where they are right now and scoring them in those correct stage, and then showing them how to get to the next stages and the things they need to do to get there. And then more importantly, the results that they will get if they get to those stages and what it means, and using that as a driver for your consulting. And then the thing that I like about that as well is I have this thing called the value bullseye, which is, I've written a blog, people can find my blog, which is most people don't go back. You have your value hypothesis at the beginning, which says if we do this project, it will be, the potential results would be X, Y, Z, and it might be risk adjusted or adjusted for their team input and everything else. But very rarely do people go back 8 months' time and said, hey, look, we anticipated that your widget production would go up by 40%, which would save you this and increase that. It's now 8 months later, and our widget production, because of the work that we did, is actually now on track to do 50% increase. And it's that showing that you were here and now you are tangibly here. And that's what I love about how you're running and have used maturity models for clients.
Yeah, definitely. It is that key thing, is that it demonstrates that I think part of the real world is that in the real world, you don't go from 0 to perfect. There is this, you've got to learn to crawl, walk, run, fly, etc. There is a progression. And you can't expect when you talk to a client to suddenly go, you're terrible at all these things. This is the perfect thing to do. And that's where you're going to be. It's not the reality of it. So the maturity model gives an understandable and digestible, let's do it in short hops. Let's do it quickly as well, those short hops. But I think going back to your point there is that if you can then utilize that into measuring what the progress has been, it immediately leads to an upsell because you're not perfect yet. We've done you one step. You can see what the benefits are. Let's do the next step now.
Yeah.
So your business development then comes back down to, yes, you want to gain new customers, but you also want to work with your existing customers to get them on that continuous improvement journey as well. Yeah. And it comes up easier if you've got a framework and a model to work with.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. I was just chuckling. It's like, you never go from 0 to perfect unless I think my 8-year-old son seems to have popped out and think he's particularly perfect and knows everything. But that's why I had a grin on my face when you were saying that. Okay, brilliant. So I just want to give a little bit of your background. So who is Robert to be saying this? My very limited understanding of your expertise. You're an entrepreneurial, started off in product management. You founded a number of tech companies. 1 or 2 went to exits.
Yeah, so it is. Well, if you go way back in my history, where I actually started I started as a business analyst. This was in the days of mainframe computer systems, for instance. So most of the stuff was analyzing how a business performed on a manual level, how you automated it, how you made it procedural driven, etc. So really that was my foundation of my learning about how you look at processes, how you make improvements and recommendations, etc. From that took me into the tech world in more detail, software development back in the 90s. So I founded really a startup in the dot-com boom, etc., which was an interesting thing. A lot of parallels with what's going along at the moment with AI, of course. So that was my bed really about software startups, but I always had that analytical business analysis, analyze things, provide advice, deliver improvements in my psyche. Once I'd moved on from startups a little bit, that's what I went into a proper consultancy role rather than an internal consultant with the Chartered Institute for IT, where I ran that consultancy for big enterprise and government, etc. As I said earlier, on skills development for IT workers, capability development, etc. So that's where as I said earlier, I developed my understanding of how to package up consultancy offering, make it more consumable and easier to sell.
And were you selling the consultancy for when you were in the Institute of IT there? Were you actually building the consultancy side, but were you actively selling it as well?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a hybrid work. Well, I was the head of the practice, as it were. So it was both development of product, it was marketing of the product, and it was then working with the salespeople and supporting the salespeople to how we sell it. So I was often in front of the key clients, for instance, delivering, this is what we can do for you, etc. But then it was also the operational team that we had to deliver it as well. So it's quite a reasonable size operation it was. So I oversaw that side of it, really.
So many, I guess, probably mirroring what a partner in a boutique consultancy is facing, the breadth of expertise, trying to spin many different plates, business development, one slither of it, but managing the team and everything else, even though it was within a larger organization.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But then I moved on from there and I went back into the startup world again. I used my entrepreneurial spirit. That came back to the floor's edge. So I worked in a few different businesses in the leadership teams. We got to Series A and stuff like that. And then I left that and I started my own consultancy as an independent, working with other startups on a consultancy basis about how you can systemize that startup journey, how you can improve it. And we trying to help them not make the mistakes that 80% of startups make in the world, which you can mostly even avoid, I think, really. So that was really a bit of a contrast. It was I'd gone from a big consultancy team into now it's just down to me. Can I do it?
So I'm bursting with questions now because you hold. I'm not going to impose expertise on you. That's your thing, but certainly experience in many different areas that my listeners have. You've got the biggest style, which would relate to a boutique, but then you were a self-starting solo consultant. So how did you get your first clients for that when you were a solo operator? How did you get your first clients there?
Yeah, so that was difficult. I think it was, I work with a lot of independent consultants now, really. And I think when you first go into starting your own consultancy, and unless you've got immediate work lined up for you, it is a struggle. Now, I made obvious mistakes when I first started doing it, thinking I could just sell my services and everybody would pay for it. But it became quite clear, particularly in the startup world, that nobody in the startups wants to spend money on anything if they can avoid it. You really got to be clear on what your value is, and you really got to be able to deliver it really fast for them. They're like the ultra version of clients with their expectations of what you can do, etc. Yeah. So what I had to do there really in that startup world is go back to how do I productize it, because it was the clear thing I had to do. So once I could actually productize what that startup journey was, and I came up with models where I could measure the startup where they were on the journey and really target in on what they needed to be doing at each stage of their journey, really focused way and a really quick way. That enabled me to get my first clients, because I could sell something which was really easy to consume and understand. The first thing I sold was, here's a session I run with your leadership team. It only takes 2 days and you get all these lovely outputs for it, and it's really affordable for you. So that was my first ability, I think, to start getting my work within the startup field, by making it consumable, easy to try, and affordable.
Are you okay if I push you a little bit here? So many of the questions I've asked you, you've talked about the productization and framework, but there's work to be done before you can speak to people and show them your models and your framework. And everyone listening has the same challenges. It's like, how do I get my foot in the door? How do I get that conversation? Okay, having these frameworks and all of these models, but if they're sat on your computer gathering dust, you can have the best model and framework in the world. If no one sees it, then it's completely irrelevant. And that's where I see a lot of consultancy. There are times when they need to be taking action, but they spend more time mastering their trade. And it's a trade that's beautifully honed, but will never get damaged because no one is seeing or being exposed to it. So when you were that solo, how did you go and get those first conversations?
Yeah. So the first thing I had to do was I had to really focus in on the subject. So that's where the framework come in. That's where the maturity model comes in. And that's where the product came in, about how I could measure people against it with questionnaires, etc. So that's great, but nobody's going to buy a maturity model from you. They're not going to buy that. That's purely your vehicle for accelerating how you can deliver the consultancy, and without taking huge amounts of time, so you can do it at a reasonable cost, etc. So the key to really for me was, what was I actually going to sell? So within my process, it was, I have a workshop which provides this value for you, provides this output, and takes this long, and it costs this much. So that's an easy thing I could then position with people. What they did like, once they understood, that sounds really great, was the models behind it. They did appreciate the models behind it as a secondary conversation, but it's not, you can't go to somebody, I've got the perfect model in the world, please buy this. They're not going to do that. Where's the tangible, concrete thing I'm going to buy, and what is it going to do for me? That's really what they wanted to know.
Okay, fab. So you used the model then, if I'm reading that right, did you use it almost as what the market now knows as a lead magnet, as a front end piece to get into a conversation, is score yourself, find out how you rank, benchmark, whatever the relevant phraseology is? Almost.
Yeah. Once you've got your model, you can then utilize it in many different ways. So if you look at the business development cycle, the first thing you can do is you can you can use your knowledge to create thought leadership in the marketplace because it's very targeted. You've got everything outlined about what your knowledge is. You can create lots of subjects that you can push out, particularly with AI now, for instance. Once you've got a model, you can generate lots and lots of content on it because it's really good. So that, of course, is the first thing for me. But yes, to developing a way to showcase your knowledge, to give that free thing to people. When I say free, it's not really free. They have to give you a bit of information, such as their email address and their time. But
time being the most valuable. People
exactly.
misunderstand.
Those kinds of lead magnets where we come along, answer these questions, get a free report, they really can engage people on a zero commitment level, introduce them to your knowledge. They start to understand, this is my problem. A lot of the time, obviously with consultancy, is getting awareness of what the problem is in the first place with the client. You need to find an easy way to focus that. So it's called the lead magnet process. That works really well. But it also then really is just a continuum, because if you've got the easy to consume lead magnet based on your model, you can then provide, here's an extended audit or workshop based on your model as well. So your model becomes a very consistent theme, and then when you deliver against it. So it's a really powerful thing if you can develop it, and really cuts down the amount of time you need to spend finding customers, talking to customers, selling to them.
Yeah. But also, so the one thing, because we have parallels, so I used to consult into the SaaS and enterprise tech, but the SaaS world was a really strange one, because after a while, I figured out my methodology was people could really only afford me when they had Series A, but I would need to court them a year before they had Series A. And almost they were including my services, because I used to do build outbound sales teams for people, and I'd create a productize. But if I was targeting the trigger of people who had got Series A, it was too late. So it's like they'd spent the money. I needed to almost find companies a year and court them. And even if they wanted to work with me, they couldn't, because they were waiting for the investment of Series A. So it's just a strange understanding the vagarisms of your marketplace.
Yeah, I'm pretty with you there. I can really relate to that, because that was a similar problem I was having with the startup community, is that, like you say, is that by the time you get to Series A as a startup, you've already decided what you're going to spend the investment money on. Like you say, it's no point contacting people. Oh, you suddenly got Series A. Well, I have, but I've already decided I'm going to spend it on this. This is what I told the investor.
I've spent it. The best one for me was when I was put in an investment deck, and a couple of my clients had told me that's what they had done. They'd put me, maybe not in the first abbreviated investment deck, but in the next phases of diligence and things, they'd actually put me in the decks that, okay, if you want to know where the money's going to go, here's part of it, is that type of thing. And once I had that, then that was perfect, because, but that's an aside. Okay, so I know you're busting to chat about it, because you've taken all this experience about the models, the productized consulting, and you're now heading up a new organization called Theax.ai, which is an AI enablement platform for consultancies, if I've said that correctly.
No, good, yeah.
And so let's look at that from a business development point of view. If you were starting out again as that solo, because I'm trying to keep a common thread, that solo that you were X number of years ago, what would Theax.ai allow you to have done differently? And what does the platform do?
Yeah. So I think the starting point is something you mentioned earlier, actually, about spending a long time building models, getting them perfect, etc. In the days before AI, I mean, that's something I did. We go back to Chartered Institute for IT. We spent a long time building these models. They're really difficult to build, etc. When I had my own independent startup, I knew how to build models, so I could build one relatively quickly, but it was still really time consuming. So this is the first thing we worked on with AI, is that how can we leverage AI to build these kinds of models really quickly? And that's the first part. Now, AI is really obviously very good at doing research, taking information that you give it, etc. And so we wanted to build something with AI that could tell me, Mr. Consultant, what your specialist knowledge is, what's so unique about you. I'm going to form that information. I'll also do some research, and we'll come back with a model for you. So with The first thing we've created within the platform is the ability to build these models within minutes in a simplest perspective. I would say in reality, a consultant probably wants to spend half a day building out their model for them, be unique for them and editing it and changing it, etc. But one day's investment to build your product is very different to having to spend months building out your models in the first place. So that's the first thing we built in the platform. How can we really quickly get to this point where you've got your product in a box? So this is what I would have done differently if I was starting out again. I would go to a platform with AI like ours so I can build my models. The second thing that we've done is to say, okay, well, our model, as we said earlier, is great, but it's not the thing you're going to sell. It's not the thing that brings it to life. So around that model, we've also built the assessment tools. So you can take your models, you can use them as lead magnets. So very quickly you can say, come here, answer these 10 questions and get a customized report which we written by AI for you. So that helps you create that lead process. And then obviously the second thing we've done in it is provided the extended assessment around AI to enable you to do a much more in-depth assessment. So that creates a brand new product for you in a box. You've got an audit product that just spins out of your framework once you've built it. So again, going back to what I was saying, within a day, if you know what your model is, you can then spin up these. All of a sudden, you've got a brand new product. You can start marketing. You've got a way to market it, etc. We're not a marketing platform, I hasten to add, but that productizes it for you, etc. And of course, the final thing that, that works within our platform is the ability for the built-in LLM, large language model that you get with your AI to do the inquiries against what customers you're working with, what's the assessments you've done with them, and really capture that data. And it's that data then that becomes a real key thing to enable you to continually improve your model and feed benchmarking information back to customers so they get more of a data-led consultancy. Obviously, I would say this because we built this platform, but for starting out today, it's the ideal vehicle, I think, to get to the point that you need to get to deliver this productized consultancy.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I love it. So I'm on the beta version of the platform at the moment, and
appreciate it.
So I do love where it's going. I really do, and I can see so many different uses for it. But if you were again advising yourself, so you've built your model, how would you take that to the market now specifically with your platform? How would you generate, say if you had to get 5 clients? In my experience, most consultants are looking for around 5 clients. It's as a solo or a small organization, even if it's a boutique, a partner will be 5 clients. Each partner lane will be 5 clients. It's just a general rule of thumb that I found. Would you take this platform and go and generate clients from it?
Yeah. So I think it goes back to the thought leadership piece, because if you're already clear within your model of this is my knowledge, this is what I do, and this is how it's structured and what the outcomes are going to be for people, which is condensed into the model, then that spins out really nicely in terms of being able to create different blog posts or thought leadership articles, etc., within the marketplace. And I think that's the key thing nowadays for anyone is to work LinkedIn in particular. Make yourself known as, this is what I do. This is my knowledge. This is the benefits it's going to deliver to you. And the second thing is to make sure people know that there's an easy route to test that knowledge with you, to talk to you about it. Be that a lead magnet, be that an introductory call where you can really focus on, this is some early advice I can provide. And then an easy way to consume that product. Because I think for me, what I found is that you can go for the big sale in life, but that takes a long time to get to the big sale. There's a lot of meetings. There's a lot of convincing people. People need to know.
And a lot of skills as well. There's a lot of nuance about having the right questioning skills, being able to handle human communication, manage politics and everything else, which some people are far better than others and have the experience to do. And that's the element that I see with my clients is you can either invest a lot of time really honing those levels of skill, or you can design a methodology and a process of client engagement, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do that, where you can demonstrate your expertise rather than learn the world's best sales process and skills.
Exactly. It's all about risk and trust, isn't it, really? Is that if I'm going to spend huge amounts of money with you and I don't know you yet, then that's a big risk to me. If I spend a little bit of money with you, well, there's not much risk involved in that. Maybe I do that and then I'll trust you because I can see what you can do. So it's very much, I think, how you can provide fast, consumable services and demonstrate outcomes to your clients in easy ways. I think that, for me, goes back to the productization of the consultancy process. So it's no longer like when I started out as a business analyst, the kind of projects I used to run in insurance companies was that I would do 3 months analysis work within the business. Then I would write a report, which might take me a week, 6 weeks, and then I'd present it. And then 9 months later, we might do some change in the business. Yeah. It's like people don't want that anymore. They want it quick, consumable. What's the outcome? The world's faster now. It's accelerated, and it's going to be even more so with AI.
Absolutely. So here's one of my slightly more contentious points of view, and I'll wrap it up in a question. So you talked about the AI platform that you're building allows people to take their knowledge, it's a knowledge platform and expertise, and put it into a framework. Now, I speak to some consultants, and they come from many different places. Sometimes they've been in one of the big consulting companies, but they don't have a product because they've worked on so many different products and being just a thin sliver of it, that they don't necessarily have a product or a framework. Or others, even when they come in and we're talking about, okay, what's your framework, what's your model? And they're asking me what questions to ask and everything. And quite frankly, that's the point where I have to push back and say, look, you're supposed to be the expert in this area, or not me. I can't build that model, that framework for you. So you've got this thing of expertise, knowledge and expertise, which drives the framework. On the other extreme, I see you've got sort of facilitators, which aren't consultants per se, but you've got workshop facilitators, leadership development facilitators, who their expertise is the human communication and managing the people to come to their own conclusions and things. The platform that you've got, does it help people if they don't have that knowledge or expertise? Or is it beholden on them that if you're going to be playing in this field, then, it's expected that you have your level of expertise and knowledge to be able to be a success in the area that you're consulting in?
Yeah. So I think to me it's the difference in consultancy is quite a big umbrella, and it can be lots of things to lots of different people. But for me, proper consultancy breaks down into two forms. The first form being I'm a highly skilled individual with great expertise, etc. And I'm going to send you my time and my expertise. That's what I'm going to do. It could be that facilitator. It could even be a coach, etc. But it's your knowledge that you're selling there. It's not a repeatable product, as it were, because you can't say, to scale my business, I'm going to suddenly put myself as an expert facilitator in a box and then do it in a repeatable fashion. When it's very much reliant on getting another expert facilitator in to be able to grow your business. This has always been the traditional thing in consultancy. It's, as I call it, it's a fundamentally unscalable process reliant on human expertise. Now, the other side is that you do have a specialism that you can put in a box. You can define what that is and you can put it into a model, and then that becomes repeatable. So if you're somebody in the first category that is just around facilitation, there's no measurement that you can do for people and help people on a measurable journey, then our platform's probably not for you. If you understand that there's a measurable progress that I can make with people where I start with them at this level, I can focus in on what they need to do to improve as a person or a business.
Excuse me.
I can enact actions to improve them, and then I can remeasure where they've gone. If you can do that with your knowledge, then our platform is for you.
Spot on. No, I love it. And the second part of that is for the listeners, really. I'm talking to the listeners rather than Robert. I have been suggesting to Robert to build in some frameworks into the platform to give people something that they can have, a product or an entry level service that they can offer as well, which might give even if it's a crutch to lean on or a starting point for some people to help them.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And then that's something we're definitely going to be doing. For instance, I've got some standardized models, for instance, just myself that I've built over the years, such as how do you do an assessment of a wellness culture? How do you do a personal assessment of skills? Et cetera, et cetera. So we're already building those out that we can then ship those with the platform.
Brilliant.
The other thing that we're doing is we're reaching out to any professional bodies out there that have their own frameworks, et cetera, and seeing how we could maybe distill their frameworks with AI and ship those with the platform as well. So ideally, we would end up with a platform that not only can it help you understand what your knowledge is and build out your models for you, but as you say, you can benefit from off-the-shelf models of specialisms to get your consultancy launched.
God, we've spoken before, so you know how my brain works. I was like, are you going to get to the point where there's almost like a models marketplace within the platform that people can either buy or subscribe to other people's models? And it's almost an income stream of if your model has been really good and you're a consultant in South Africa for whatever, but you might get an extra additional income stream by adding your model and methodology into the platform for other people to resell.
Yeah, I definitely see this as the future. Is that one of the things with AI at the moment? You go to a ChatGPT or any large language model and you can ask it questions, etc. It's all very generic. It's not based on the real life specialist expertise of an individual.
Yeah.
So we definitely see that there's an opportunity, we feel, as AI progresses to have this type of marketplace. And we're really very well positioned, I think, to deliver that. Because in the end, knowledge, if it's going to be accessible, has to be put into a form that people can consume. And if people can consume it easier, then it spreads its benefit throughout society. So if you're a consultant that's been working for 30 years and you've got specialist insights, if you can find a way of distilling those specialist insights and creating some kind of assessment, say in our platform, I think it has a huge amount of value to help other people. And if you can help other consultants, that helps the industry in general, because consultancy and knowledge becomes much more consumable and shareable. Yeah. So it's an interesting future.
I'm now thinking about what I can box up and put on the platform for others to rent or subscribe to. No, I love it. So reaching the end of the podcast, you've been a fascinating guest and with a uniquely different perspective to many, and that's what I love. Over the years, lots of different pockets of experience. Have you made any significant mistakes? And if so, what did you learn from those other consultants listening to the podcast could benefit from?
Yeah, I think the mistakes that I've made are probably around my innovative nature, my entrepreneurial nature, where there's always a new solution for a problem, which sometimes works really well. But when it doesn't work, it's when I start creating some really excellent new solutions to a problem, but people don't understand. They don't relate to it. So in the end, I'm trying to sell something really novel to a client, and you're going, well, that's just too novel for me. I don't understand it. Why can't you just sell me what I need today? So I think what you really have to understand is that innovation is really good and good ideas are fantastic. But at the end of the day, people just want a solution for their problem and something they understand as well, I think is the key thing. So where I've made mistakes, for instance, is when I first became an independent consultant. I spent ages building out my first framework, as I mentioned before, and I probably wasted the first year when I could have actually been getting lots and lots of business. I got some business, but I was too busy building out a perfect thing, which is not a good thing to do. It's going to do something.
You won't be surprised to know that I hear that all the time. And not just frameworks. So I spoke to a consultant once that was writing a book that he planned is going to take about a year so he could do a book launch and then run a series of workshops around the country to get CEOs in. And I said, like, are you writing the book for a legacy or because you want to get clients? He said, well, I need clients. I said, when do you need them? I need them now. I said, well, why are you developing something that's going to take 16 months or something? If it's for legacy, great. But yeah, I totally concur with you. And so in my work, I call it the greenlit projects. It depends on the size of your organization. There's two great books, one called The Challenger, sale, one called the challenger customer or client, I can't quite remember, but they're about innovation in looking for a unique angle, educating an aware market about a problem that they don't know that they have. But for most consultants, they don't have the skill, the time, the cash runway to do all of that. I look at them like, you need to be getting into conversations and look at what projects have been greenlit already and how you can inject yourself into that. Especially if you only need 5, 10, 15 clients, you don't have the knowledge, skills, bandwidth, cash runway to be originating large deals and educating them on problems that they don't know they have. What you might find is you look at the greenlit projects and what they're discussing are actually the symptoms, and you can help them understand the root cause of the problem better. And that's where you come in. But yeah, I concur. It's something I see so often.
Yeah. It's like you say, as a consultant or even a small consultancy, you don't have the time and the bandwidth to go and educate the market on a brand new thing. There's something in the software industry which probably explains it. And that's trying to find a market which you can describe as hair on fire. So so when you're developing software, it comes out of California, nowhere else.
Yeah.
It's a term like that. But it's quite right, really. It's where can you find an urgent problem that people are really need a solution for today? It's not and they're aware of the problem, but I just need a solution for this problem. And that's what I think really is an independent or a small consultancy. You really got to leverage on over it. If you've got a long runway of years, you can educate the market of a brand new solution. As you say, most people don't have that luxury.
And the one thing I'll add on that, if you are listening to this podcast, then I do have a process called client insight interviews. To my blog or the podcast website, there's probably posts on it there, or reach out to me, because that is a framework leverage from lean customer development and the work of Cindy Alvarez and some other different methodologies, all repackaged into very specifically how it relates to consulting, to go out and speak to the marketplace, putting your ego to one side about what you think your expertise is and how to go and this is what people want, and actually go and interview in the marketplace and finding out what these greenlit projects are. What do they think they need? Why do they think they need them? And even how does that fit within the box of all the other problems that they're stacking up against about whether they green light things. And so, so if that's something that people need, reach out to me and I can help with that. So Robert, you've been an absolutely amazing guest. Thank you very much. So you're absolutely visible on LinkedIn. I know that. So it's Robert Streeter. So the website is it's a very strange pronunciation, but it's AX.ai. Yeah. And obviously I'll put all of the links below here. Is there any other place people can find you, or any other way that you want people to find you if what you've been discussing is relevant for them?
Yeah, well, being a new startup, we're basically active on LinkedIn and we have a website. And I hasten to add that the website that we've got is what we developed last September when we first launched the business. Urgent need of update. So if you really want to know about what our product is, it's just come and talk to me. It's due to go into production in a live environment 1st of April. We're ready. We'll be ready for our first customers then. And by the way, Peter, thanks very much for all the testing you've done in our beta program.
Oh, it's brilliant. There's two things I want to say there. One is just, jump on it's a brilliant platform. Jump on it. And as a group, you're very open to feedback and ideas about its development. But for most people listening, it's like, I can't get this across enough, is when you are active on LinkedIn, be engaged and speak to people and get into conversations. Because I think now you've said that, the reason we're on this podcast and possibly we're in discussions about you becoming a client as well is, I don't know, 6 months ago, I saw something you posted. I messaged you directly, you responded back, and I even did. I said, look, I've checked it out. I've looked at the website. I'm still not quite sure what it is. I was being open and honest, and we just had a conversation. There was no intent or anything. And this is one of the key things I try and get my clients to think about is, like, don't treat LinkedIn as a place where you just go in and drop and run, but just start conversations with people. It's about how many conversations can you get in that are meaningful, just to get to know people, what you can comment on it. And this is an absolute true reflection of that. So for that, I thank you very much.
Thank you too, Peter.
So, Robert, you've been an absolutely fantastic guest, and thank you very much. And we're going to sign off now. So cheers.
Thanks very much. Pleasure, Peter. Thanks.